right. Hey, good morning, everybody. All right, I'm not going to give you any more puns, I promise. I actually have the honor and the privilege of introducing the guest speaker for today. As most of you know, Pastor David and Lisa are leading a trip in Israel as we speak. So please keep them in your prayers if you guys would. I first of all want to make sure we acknowledge all of our other campuses. As you guys know, we are not just here at Sawgrass. So a shout out to Sample Road, Lake Worth, Fort Lauderdale, Dade CI, and Homestead. Good morning to all of you guys. Now, you know, sometimes I remember like as a little kid when they would have like the substitute teacher come in and be like, ah. But I just want you to know at Church by the Glades, Pastor David, we don't roll like that. We actually ratchet it up when we bring somebody in. And this weekend is no exception. It's his first time here, but last night he slayed it. I mean, slayed it, but I'm still on fire thinking about it. So just let me give you guys a little bit of factoids. His name is Pastor Stephen Chandler, him and his wife, Zai. Pastor Destiny Harvest in the Baltimore, Maryland area. They've been in ministry together for about 14 years. They have the cutest patootie named Zoe. She's 18 months old, and her shoe game is on fleek, man, let me tell you. But just a couple of other things about them. You know, they started their church in 2011, and in the first year, 325 people said yes to Jesus and will now join us one day in heaven. And we need to celebrate that. That's so great. Now, one other thing I learned about them is that the pastor, he's a Baltimore Ravens fan. And the wife, Zai, she's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I'm going to let you guys all figure that out with him. But now, I don't know how they do hospitality in Maryland, but I know here, we don't mess around. Will you guys please stand to your feet? Welcome to the stage, Pastor Stephen Chandler!
Awesome. Church by the Glades. Before you sit down, can you give God some praise in this place? God, we worship you, we magnify you. And the last thing before you sit down, can you honor your pastors, Pastor David and Pastor Lisa? You can sit down, but on your way down, tell two people, I heard you singing. I heard you singing, and it wasn't Jesus. I don't know what that was. Wow, man, it is such an honor to be with you all today. I am telling you, sometimes when you're in something, you don't know how big it is. And I just need you to know that this nation, the United States of America, churches everywhere are talking about what God is doing in your church. They're talking about the lives that are being transformed, the hungry that you guys are feeding, the hopeless that you're helping. I'm telling you, what God is doing here is not normal, and you are so privileged to call this place home. So they told me that I have about 4 hours to preach today, so we'll really get to know each other. Somebody's like, no, this is the wrong place for me. I don't know what this is. But turn in your Bible to 2 Samuel chapter 4, 2 Samuel chapter 4, and we're going to jump right in God's Word. If you don't have a Bible, that's okay. You could turn your iPhone. You could find the verse there. If you have an Android, you can't use that. God hates Androids. God is an Apple God. Not joking. And if you have neither, you can just look up on the screen and we can read this together. It says this in 2 Samuel chapter 4. It says, Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son who was lame in his feet. He was 5 years old when the news about Saul and Jonathan came from Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled, and it happened that as she made haste to flee, that he fell and became lame. His name was... Y'all can't read it just like I can. Mephibosheth. We're going to jump over to chapter 9, verse 3, and it says this. It says, then the king, and this is a new king, this is King David, said, is there not still someone of the house of Saul to whom I may show the kindness of God? And Ziba said to the king, there is still a son of Jonathan who is lame in his feet. Now, I have to point this out. Chapter 4 of 2 Samuel is about 20 years before chapter 9. 20 years later, they still refer to Mephibosheth, not by his name, but by the fact that he was lame. There's something about the world that we live in that will label you based on the worst day of your life. Is there anybody here who's grateful that God doesn't label you based on your worst day, but he labels you based on his best day? He sees you not based on your mistake, but he sees you based on his grace. The Bible says, so the king said to him, where is he? And Ziba said to the king, indeed, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Ammiel, in Lodabar. Verse 6 says, now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face and prostrated himself. Then David said, Mephibosheth. He didn't recognize him. He didn't look like the grandson of a king. His beard was probably overgrown. He probably had rips in his clothes like I do. He just didn't look like royalty. And he answered, here is your servant. So David said to him, so do not fear. If he was from Baltimore, he'd been like, don't be scared. Not scared, it's scared. It's scared. You'll get it later. Don't be scared, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake, and will restore to you all the land of Saul your grandfather, and you shall eat bread at my table continually. Let's pray. Father God, we're just so grateful, God, for this opportunity, God, to sit in this house under your name. God, your name that is power, your name that is freedom, your name that is hope. God, we're so grateful, even in this moment. God, anoint me to speak. And oh, by the way, God, thank you so much for that Miami win yesterday, God. We were all nervous. We didn't want to say it, but we were nervous, but you came through like the good God that you are. We're grateful. In Jesus' name we pray, amen and amen. Don't laugh at me. You were nervous. You were just like, who is Virginia? What is this? I'll tell you, I love the Miami Hurricanes because the Baltimore Ravens are like Miami Hurricane grad school. We get Ray Lewis, we get Ed Reed, Sean Taylor. I mean, I love Miami. Keep sending them our way. We're in a series talking about overcoming fear, fearless. And I'm supposed to teach you how to overcome fear, but before I teach you how to overcome fear, I just have to tell you I'm scared. And there's some fears that I have. Pastor David talked a few weeks ago about how you shouldn't be afraid of snakes. You shouldn't be afraid of alligators. You should be afraid of deer. Well, I'm not afraid of snakes. I'm afraid of getting bitten by a snake and dying. I'm not afraid of alligators. I'm afraid of getting eaten by an alligator. And technically, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just afraid of dying. One of the things I don't like is I don't like falling. I don't like dropping. I just don't like being up in the air. Some people would say I'm afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling and dying. There's a theme here. And as a guest speaker to get like super spiritual off the bat, but I do need to address this. There's this demonic spirit that is gripping our nation for years and years and years. And I call this demonic spirit roller coasters. Y'all thought I was going deep. There's this contraption where people actually pay money to be dropped. Like you stand in line for an hour of your life, you pay money, you bought the fast pass just for them to take you up in the air and drop you. There's this amusement park up in Maryland called Kings Dominion. It's actually in Virginia, and there's, Virginia folks, there's this ride called the Tower of Doom, and it gets rid of all the frills of a roller coaster. There's no twists, there's no turns, there's no loops. It just takes you about 20 stories up in the air, and it drops you. Now, I would not be caught dead on a ride like this. The only problem is when we went, somebody double dog dared me to get on it, and you understand, when a double dog dare comes out, you don't back down. I'm not a punk. Let's do this. So we get in there, we stand there for 45 minutes. I feel like the lines are so long so that you can kind of make peace with God and kind of get your life in order before you get on this ride. So I finally get on, and they take me 40 stories up in the air. And what they did not tell me, they did tell me that they would bring me back down. What they did not tell me is that when my body came down, my soul would stay up there. There's like this separation that takes place as you come down. It's the last ride I ever got on. I will never do that again. It doesn't feel good to fall. It doesn't feel good to be dropped. Nobody in their right mind likes to fall. Maybe you're like me and you can brag that before you got married, you've never been dropped. Or don't. I didn't date a lot of women before my wife. I did date a few though, and I can tell you right now, ain't none of them dumped me. I'm not saying that they didn't want to. I'm just saying I always saw it coming and I dropped them before they dropped me. Homegirl would be like, hey, how's it going? Oh, it's over. What do you mean it's over? I just want to know where you want to go to dinner. Oh, sorry. It's still over. It doesn't feel good to be dropped. got ahead of myself. I need to introduce my wife. I travel with my beautiful wife, Stephen Chandler. She's here on the front row. And I think they're going to throw a picture up somewhere. That is my African queen, my wife, and my little baby girl, Zoe. Don't let her fool you. She needs Jesus. She's not a Christian. This is Zoe now. She's not a Christian. She is a heathen. I pray for her, but she needs help. Church is a place where you go to lay down your burdens, to confess your sins. And I figure with all these people in this place that my wife can't hurt me in front of you. So it's probably a good time to confess, babe, I'm so sorry, but I dropped Zoe. It's not my fault. The football game was on. I didn't know she was going to roll. And it's cool, though. I caught her on the second bounce. It's all the way cool. She'll be just as smart as her dad. She'll be okay. Y'all are laughing. Please pray for me. Seriously, though, have you ever been dropped? Have you ever been dropped? Like a real drop. Like maybe a marriage didn't work out and you found yourself dropped. Maybe your boss walked into your office on a Friday. I don't know why they don't fire people on a Monday, probably because they know I would turn up in that place if it was Monday, but they come in at like the end of the day on Friday and they give you some foolishness about the economy cutbacks. Bottom line, clean out your desk. You've been dropped. Or maybe you just graduated college and you're trying to go into grad school and you've been applying everywhere and you get letter after letter back, great this, great that, but we don't have room, wait list, whatever. By the end of the story, it's just you've been dropped. It doesn't feel good to be dropped. In this passage that we read, we see the most tragic transfer of power in all of Scripture. Israel came to God and they said, God, we don't want you to be our king. We want to be like everybody around us. We want an earthly king. It's very dangerous when the people of God start to say we want to be like everybody around us. God says that's not what you want, but I'll give it to you anyway so you'll figure out that it's not what you want. Sometimes God will give us stuff that's not good for us just so that we can realize he's the only one that we really need. So Saul came and he was king, and Saul started off well. He started off like a lot of us. You remember that first day on the job when you showed up like 30 minutes early? And you just sat in the parking lot and prayed for 15 minutes. God, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. God, I lied on my resume. I don't know how to do this. God, please, please, please. Saul started out trusting God, but after a while, things started to go well. Israel started to grow in wealth and power, and Saul began to think it was his own expertise and not the favor of God that was the key to his success. And God says, oh, if you're so big and bad, that's fine. I'll just step back and remove my favor from you. We live sometimes where we hear people say, oh, you should be afraid of God. If you sin, God's going to curse you. God's going to get you. God doesn't get people. He doesn't have to. Life is rough enough as it says. All he does is just remove his favor from you. If you're so big and bad, then go ahead. Let's see how it goes. And God removed his favor from Saul, and instantly an army came in. The Philistines came in, and they destroyed Israel. They ended up killing Saul and his son Jonathan on the same day. Saul had a grandson named Mephibosheth, and when Mephibosheth's nanny found out that his dad and granddad died in the same day, she picked him up and she started running, trying to save him from the mistakes of his past. And it says, as she was running from his past, from his dad and his grandfather, she dropped him and he ended up becoming lame. I've discovered in life that if I live life running from my past, running from the mistakes of yesterday. Maybe there's things in your past that you're not proud of, that you're not excited about. You don't want anybody to know. Maybe it's not even you. Maybe it's you're running from the mistakes of your parents or your grandparents. Granddad's marriage didn't work out. Dad's marriage didn't work out. Nobody in my family's marriage worked out, and I'm so afraid that I'm not going to get married. I don't even know if that's going to be my future. We end up being afraid of our past, and in doing so, we end up breaking the future that God has for us. I'm telling you, God did not die for us to live in fear. And one of the biggest fears we all face is afraid that our past will come back to haunt us. The Bible says this in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, and we've been unpacking this in the whole series. It says, for God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-control. Now, at this point, I've won over half of the room. Half of you just like, I know I've been dropped. I've fallen bad. Help me, help me, help me. Rest of y'all are like, I don't know what this Chris Rock guy is talking about. Never been dropped in my life. This got nothing to do with me. Where is Pastor David? Bring him back. For you folks, I worked extra hard on this message. I actually did a little research, looked at the name of Mephibosheth in the original language, and the first part of his name means to be dropped, to be shattered. The second part of his name, Bosheth, means to be hidden, to be shameful. Now, I don't know where you come from. Where I come from, they name babies when they're born. So in my mind, Mephibosheth was named dropped and shameful 5 years before he was ever dropped. It was prophesied over his life before it ever came to pass. I don't know what experiences you've had. Maybe they weren't tragic. Maybe you had a great life. The Bible says if you're breathing oxygen, you were born dropped. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 3, it says this. It says, all of us used to be just as they are. Now, everybody has a they. You know who your they is? Your they are the people that you look down on. How could they do that, drink that, smoke that, say that, sleep that? How I would never. The Bible says everyone was just as they are. Our lives expressing the evil within us, doing every wicked thing that our passions, our evil thoughts might lead us into. In other words, you meant to do that. That wasn't a mistake. You meant to do that. You meant to set that text. You wrote it out. You knew it was me. You hit send because you knew it would hurt them. The Bible says, yeah, you did it on purpose. It says you started out bad, being born with evil natures, and were under God's anger just like everyone else. Welcome to Church by the Glaze, the most encouraging place on the planet. The Bible says no matter who you are, everyone has a past. Everyone has parts of us that are broken. And what I want to do in these next 3 hours is just you. I like that one. How do I live my life not afraid that my yesterday will cut off the tomorrow that God has for me? Can you write this down? Can you take notes with me? The first thing is this, write this down. I'm going to learn how to be overcome, or I don't want to be afraid of my past. I don't want to be afraid of my past. The Bible says that when they went to look for Mephibosheth to bring him to the king's palace, that Mephibosheth was in Lodabar. I don't mean to be offensive, but the truth is Lodabar was the ghetto. It was a rough part of town. It was a place where there was not a lot of jobs, there was not a lot of income, there was a lot of crime, and it was literally where people went to hide out that did not want to be found. In that day, people who were lame, it's not like today when they're honored and taken care of. In those days, they were outcasts. People who were lame, they weren't allowed in the synagogues or any religious structures. They weren't allowed in any government buildings. They weren't allowed to intermingle with the normal population. So often, because of things in our past, we feel like we don't really fit in anywhere. Man, everybody smiles and they high five in the parking lot and say, oh, we're so glad that you're here, but that's because they don't know me. If they really knew me, they would know I don't fit in a place like this. I don't belong in a place like this. This is where all the good people go that have it all together, and that's just not my story. And without even realizing it, we kind of put ourselves in an emotional Lodabar, where we smile on the outside, but on the inside we have these walls up where we won't really allow people in. And we end up settling in life because of the mistakes of our past. Man, I don't know if homegirl I'm dating is wifey material. She's actually pretty crazy. But I don't know if I could do any better, so I'll just stick with her. Man, this guy, man, I don't know who this guy is I'm dating. But I don't know if I could do any better. I can't say it as a church, but I hate my job. I hate my boss. I can't stand Monday and I look forward to Friday. But I don't really know if I could get anything better. This is secure. I'll keep this. Listen to me. If you find yourself in life settling, if you find yourself in life saying things like, this is good enough, I'm telling you, you're living a life that's gripped by fear. And that's not the life that Jesus died on the cross for you to live. He died on the cross so that you can live a life of exceeding and abundantly above all that you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Now, Mephibosheth was no dummy. He wasn't just hiding because he was crippled. He was hiding because David had the right to kill him. You see, in those days, when a new king came in that wasn't related to the old king, the first thing the new king would do would be execute all the princes. Why? Because little prince becomes grown men, and grown men become warriors, and sometimes warriors want to take back their granddad's kingdom. So Mephibosheth said, out of sight, out of mind, let me just hide from David, and maybe he'll forget that I'm here, and he won't kill me. While Mephibosheth was hiding, though, He did not understand that his name was being spoken about in the king's palace. I believe that God sent me here this morning to let you know, Church by the Glades, that at this second, there are people that are talking about you behind your back. Somebody like, oh, I know that. I know who they are. Not like that. There are people of influence ordained by God that are talking about you behind your back to open doors for you in king's palaces, to position you in places that you've given up on, that you're not even praying for. I'm telling you, God is talking about you to position you in things that you're not even thinking about. I believe that there are businessmen, influencers, city officials that are talking about this church. How can we come alongside a Church by the Glades to accelerate, to advance the work of God here? You see, Mephibosheth was hiding because of the sins of his grandfather Saul. But what he did not know is that his father was a righteous man. Jonathan came to David and he said, David, look, I know my dad messed up. I know that you're going to be the next king. I'll probably lose my life. But can you look out for my boy Mephibosheth? Can you make sure that he doesn't have to pay the price for his granddad? So when David was looking for Mephibosheth, he wasn't looking to kill him. He was looking to bless him because of who his father is. I don't know about you. I can't wait to get to heaven. And that's a lie. I can wait. I don't want to die now. Let me take that back. I was like, oh, really? Okay, no. I can wait. But I'm kind of excited. Can you imagine what it's going to be like? Like, are we going to be walking on water? They say it's like streets of gold. I'm going to be out there scraping the streets. I can't wait to get there and to see Jesus. And as soon as I see Jesus, I'm going to find Adam and I'm going to punch him. You are seriously the only person on the planet that can say you single-handedly ruined the world. Literally. All sin, the Bible says, comes through Adam. The reason why you're so strange is because Adam. And so many of us, we live life afraid that the sins of our past that started with Adam are going to come back to haunt us, almost like our grandfather, not understanding that there was another Adam that came. And the second Adam, by the name of Jesus Christ, canceled all the sin that the first Adam could ever bring into our lives. Somebody say he's preaching right now. In Romans chapter 5, verse 17, it says this sin of this one man, Adam, caused death to be king over all. You see, I didn't make it up. Adam ruined the world. But all who will take God's gift of forgiveness and acquittal, watch this, are kings of life because of this one man, Jesus Christ. Listen to me. The whole gospel, the whole point of being a Christian is not living a perfect life, having perfect church attendance, or never kicking your dog. This is what it means to be a Christian. I have received the forgiveness of God. He has acquitted my past, and I am now king on top of life. Not because of who I am, but because of who he is. You never have to live life afraid that your past is going to affect your future, because Jesus is taking care of your past. The second thing I want you to write down is this. Some of us are afraid that we're not enough. I don't have what it takes. You see, when they got Mephibosheth, they brought him in front of King David, and the first thing Mephibosheth did is he threw himself on the ground and said, oh, what a dead dog am I. He said, you don't understand, you know me, you might have forgiven my granddad Saul, but I'm still crippled. A cripple doesn't deserve to be seated in the king's presence. I went through a season of my life where I was very afraid to sit down on toilets. I was terrified. I'm sorry, I can't afford therapy, so I preach. This is where I just get it all out. I was about 10 years old, and my parents, they would go on date nights every Friday, so when they would go on date nights, we would watch shows we weren't supposed to watch, and we were watching one night, it was like Fatal Attraction or something about those people that have animals they're not supposed to have, and this guy had like a poisonous snake. You guys know about that. You're in Florida. We don't do that in Maryland, but down here you guys have stuff like that. And he had this snake, and he lost his snake. What do you mean you lost your snake? I lost my snake. It's not here, and he didn't know where his snake was. It was a poisonous snake. He lost his snake. You tracking? It turns out the snake got into the neighbor's house and went up the pipes and was in the toilet. 10 years old watching this, right? And they're doing, you know how they do like the live reenactments, and the guy goes to the jaw and gets his newspaper and sits down and yeah! I'm watching this at 10 years old, I'm not gonna lie to you, for about 6 months straight, I could not sit down. I'm like half cheeking it. I'm looking at him. It's like, pray for me, I need help. My wife is looking at me like, you should have not told that story. So many of us, when God opens doors of opportunities, we're afraid to sit down because we feel like we don't have what it takes. We feel like you're not enough. The Bible says in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 4, it says, however, God is loaded. He is wealthy. He is rich in mercy. He brought us to life with Christ while we were dead as a result of those things that we did wrong. He did this because of the great love that he has for us. Watch this. You are saved by God's grace. And God raised us up and seated. Did past tense, already done, been done, gone, and seated you in the heavens with Christ Jesus. You missed that. That's why you're not. No, don't clap now. You missed it. You missed too late. Here's what he's saying. The second you give your life to Christ, that moment, there's a chair in heaven at King Jesus' table with your name on it. That chair, come on now, that's a good place to clap. That chair is not just a place of your salvation. That chair is you being the husband you've always dreamed of. The father that you always dreamed of, the businessman or the businesswoman. Listen to me, every door that God has ever gonna open in your life, he has already prepared it for you in heaven. You're not enough, but in God, he is more than enough in you. It's not based on your ability. It's based on the fact that God is for you and he's with you. I believe this week is the most religious week of my life. Not your life, just my life. Why? Because it's Thanksgiving. I mean, what could be more godly than eating your way from Monday all the way to Thursday? I just feel the anointing right now. Thanksgiving in my home is no joke. I grew up in a big family of 5 siblings. My parents were always bringing in some random people, so Thanksgiving was always packed out. Not only was it a big family, but I grew up in a Caribbean family. Any Caribbean folks, any Jamaicans, Trinis, come on out. My folks are from Barbados. I was born in Maryland, so they call me a Bajan Yankee, you know. So in our house, Thanksgiving is no joke. We don't do turkey, we do jerk turkey. We do beef stew and rice. We do beef stew and all these different kinds of stuff. Coconut turnover. Right now, my grandma is home grating cassava. You don't know what that is. And coconut, I mean, it is a show. 3 days of cooking. In my house, they don't let no kids in the kitchen. This isn't, I don't care what you watch on TV. This is grown folks' business. This is game time. So I didn't get to cook. My responsibility was to set the table. Now listen to me, I'm all man. I know I'm wearing skinny jeans, but I am all man. But your boy can set a mean table. I know where it goes. Sorry guys, they did this one wrong. The spoon actually goes right up there. You got the salad fork, the dinner fork. There's no napkin. If there was, I'd show you. I could fold it in a little crane. I mean, your boy is bad. And when I was finished setting the table, my mom would say, go tell your siblings, dinner is served. Now, you grew up in the same house like my house where people had phrases that they didn't really mean what they said. When my mom sent me to say dinner is served, it didn't mean dinner is served. It meant bring your tail now. I don't care where you are in the game. I don't care where you are in the puzzle. I don't care what you're doing. Come now. I did not slave over this food all day long for you to eat it cold. Come now. Don't you dare hesitate. Don't you back up. Church by the Glades, I believe that God sent me here today to let you know dinner is served. God has opened a door for you. Don't you dare hesitate. Don't you dare second guess. Don't you dare back up. When God opens a door, you step right through it, even if you don't feel like enough. There's this verse in the Bible, Psalm 23:5. It says this: you set a table for me right in front of my haters. You bathe my head in oil. My cup is so full it spills over. Now, some of you have never heard that verse before. Some of you have heard the verse. You don't recognize it because you grew up in church like me and all you did was King James. So let me give it to you like you know it. He prepareth a table for me in the presence of my enemy. He anointeth my cup with oil. My cup runneth. Oh, we're sorry for the splash zone. I've read that verse so many times and I missed it. It says he prepares a table for me in front of people who don't think I have what it takes. Then he anoints my head with oil. The anointing is just a biblical term of saying God giving you a supernatural power. Then my cup runs over. That represents my resume and my pedigree and the things that I've done in the past to prove that I can do it in the future. The Bible says that God seats you in places that people don't think what you have what it takes before he anoints you or empowers you for it. Which means that God will always open doors that you don't feel ready for. So if you wait to feel ready, you will miss God. Here's why. Because if you felt ready, then you would feel like you don't need God. And God would never put you in a position where you don't need him. Don't wait to feel it. Just step through when God opens that door. Listen to me. Start that business. Step into that relationship. Expand. When God lays it on your heart, go for it, and he will empower you to do it. Don't wait to feel enough. You are enough. Listen to me. I'm not just preaching this. This is my story. At 24, my dad came to me and said, Stephen, I don't feel like God's calling me to pastor this church anymore. I feel like you need to step in as a senior pastor. He had pastored, my dad literally has pastored more years than I've been alive. At that time, though, my mom was battling cancer, and he said, I really just want to focus on taking care of your mom. Can you step in and take over this church? I was 24 and single. Now, I pray for your brother. I got my anointing now, though. I'm good. I don't want to be offensive, but I just always thought I was going to be a normal pastor, old. I was like, I'll be a pastor when I'm like, down the road, not now. And then the door opened. I'm just like, God, I'm not enough. I can't handle it. There's no way. And God says, exactly. That's why I've called you. That was 6 years ago. Do you know to date over 3,000 people have made a decision to follow Christ in that church? Not because of me, but because when he opens the door, he will anoint you. Your resume will run over. Don't worry about not feeling enough. God will do it through you. Last thing is this. So many of us were afraid of being alone. If people really knew who I am, the thoughts I have, the mistakes I've made, they'd reject me. They would want nothing to do with me. So I have to pretend like I have it all together so that they won't really understand that, yes, I've been in church for 3 years and I'm still not perfect. Still don't have it all together. And I'm reading this and I just feel like God he said, Stephen, think about Mephibosheth being lame and broken in his feet. And imagine the time when he finally trusted the king enough that he wasn't going to kill him and he was willing to sit at his table. Some of you haven't gotten there yet. You think God's out to get you. Today is the day where you're going to trust him enough to know that he's not out to get you, but he's here to bless you. And it says that Mephibosheth finally went and he sat at the king's table being crippled and with all these other able-bodied warriors around him. And it struck me that it was Mephibosheth's legs that were broken. Seated at the king's table from the waist up, he honestly was probably stronger in his upper body than your average man, probably like Pastor David, because he was used to moving himself around with his hands. And because he was seated at the king's table, the parts of him that were broken were covered. He looked just like everybody else when he sat where the king put him. Maybe you're new to church today. Somebody lied to you, told you they were taking you to brunch, and they brought you to church. Make sure you get that free brunch. I don't know what happened there. But you walked in today saying, man, I don't fit here. All these people are perfect with their perfect marriage and their perfect little kids and their perfect little life. I'm not perfect. I fought with my husband all the way to church. I cussed at my kids. I kicked my dog. I don't like my grandma. This is not a place for me. Pray for me. Can I tell you something? Church isn't a place of perfect people. Church is a place of covered people. People that, yes, we have broken parts of our lives, but as long as we're seated where the king put us, he covers us. He makes it look like everything's all right. That's what it means to be a Christian. It means that you are covered by the blood of Jesus Christ, and the parts of you that are broken have been erased in the cross. So I have two options. Now that I, as a Christian, have been covered by the grace of God, I can either pretend like I have it all together, or I can go out and find other broken people and let them know that there's room at the table for you. You see this guy, David? David was no king. David was some lonely shepherd boy of some poor family out in some obscure tribe. That the king at that time went and found David and brought him and seated him at the king's table. And what David did for Mephibosheth, he was just returning the favor of what somebody had done for him decades before. That's how we end up not being alone, that when we get covered by the grace of God, we don't just sit there as perfect Christians and enjoy it. We go back out to our jobs and in our homes and in our streets, and we find people that are where we used to be, and we let them know that God can do the same thing for you that he did for me. This is not a place of perfect people. This is a place of covered people. Let's be a church that's not just focused on ourselves, but we say, God, as you cover me, I'm going to give every ounce in my body to let people know that they are accepted by the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. There is room for you at the King's table. Don't feel like you have to be afraid of your yesterday, because in Jesus Christ, your yesterday is erased and your tomorrow is based on who he is. This is free. I'm going to just throw this in there real quick. While God will never reject you because of your past, some people will. But anybody who would reject you based on your past is not sent by God. And you don't need them in your life anyway. Don't worry about yesterday. Run into all that God has for you. And I'm telling you, you will be his people. Can we pray? Jesus, we're just grateful, God, that you've covered our yesterday. God, you've opened doors for our tomorrow. God, we pursue you with our hearts. Make us a church, God, that makes room for more at your table. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen.